Hello and welcome. It is Friday, January 23rd, 2026, and this is your weekly roundup from Courtroom Confidential, the fastest growing true crime news channel on YouTube. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. I hope you're staying warm. I've been watching the news, and every other segment is about how bad this storm is going to be and how cold it's going to be. And now they're talking about power outages and travel restrictions. And so wherever you're at, we hope that you are keeping nice, cozy, toasty, and safe. And we're very glad that you're here spending a little bit of time with us. Probably best thing you could be doing in this storm is park yourself in front of YouTube and watch some true crime updates. So if you're here, thank you so much for being here. Cody in Tennessee, Really I See You, Alicia K. Mayo, Afton, Farm Girl. It's so John Amore. It's so nice to see so many familiar names coming back and some new names. So thank you, everybody who's returning. We've got a great show today because we've got a very busy week to catch you up on. And if this is your first time, welcome. I think you're really going to enjoy it. We're going to go through everything that you can that happened this week and so take a look at some things that are taking place in the week ahead. Cody in Tennessee, thank you so much for kicking us off by gifting a Courtroom Confidential membership. And let me introduce myself to the new folks. My name is Joshua Ritter. I'm a former prosecutor with the LA District Attorney's Office. I was there for just over 10 years before I left to go into private practice as a criminal defense attorney. And this is Courtroom Confidential, where we try our best to present to you both sides of the courtroom. And we call this show that we do every Friday and occasionally Saturdays, our weekly roundup, where we take a recap on all things true crime that have taken place throughout the week. So thank you so much for being here. Again, I'm in a good mood. I'm juiced. Kaylin's juiced. She says she's under 50% though. So I hope to get those numbers up for her before the end of the show. Thank you, Farm Girl. This might be one way to do it. Thank you, Farm Girl, for gifting the Courtroom Confidential membership. Appreciate you. As always, take a deep breath. You've made it to the end of another glorious week. You're going to survive the next. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. I don't know what's stopping you. Jody P is a first timer and glad I caught the live. Well, we're glad that you're here, Jody P. And we hope that you subscribe and share this, please, with anybody that you think might enjoy it. And Cindy Lou, who is glad that she caught it live as well. And we're glad that you're here. Stick around to the end, as I said. As always, we have some announcements for you. We have some fun stuff coming up, including right after this show, we have a members-only live show. So I want you to all be aware of that. But all right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get rolling. Not guilty on all counts, says a Texas jury in the highly emotional trial of a police officer who prosecutors claim failed to act during the horrific school shooting at Robb Elementary that claimed the lives of 19 children and 2 teachers. Plus, the trial of a Virginia man accused of orchestrating the complex murder of his wife and another man so that he could run off with the family nanny nears its end. And Erica Kirk, the widow of Turning Point founder Charlie Kirk, says enough is enough, arguing that her rights as a victim demand that the trial of her husband's assassin quit stalling and get moving. All this and more this week on Courtroom Confidential. As you can tell, lots for us to dive into this week. As always, we are honored you have chosen us to bring you these updates. I am your host, Joshua Ritter, an award-winning Los Angeles prosecutor turned criminal defense attorney with 20 years experience navigating the criminal justice system, bringing you my unique insights from both sides of the courtroom. Today is Friday, January 23rd, 2026, and this is your Courtroom Confidential weekly roundup. Let's jump in. A Texas jury returned a not guilty verdict Wednesday evening in the trial of former Uvalde police officer Adrian Gonzales, who faced 29 counts of child abandonment or endangerment tied to the May 2022 Robb Elementary school shooting. The jury deliberated for 7 hours before acquitting Gonzales. The charges focus on his actions in the early minutes of the attack, which killed 19 children and 2 adults and is the deadliest school shooting in Texas history. Gonzales did not testify at trial, and his defense called 2 witnesses. After the verdict, Gonzales and his attorney spoke with the reporters about feedback from the jury. Defense attorney Nico LaHood said jurors told them there were a lot of gaps in the evidence. In an interview with ABC News, Gonzales said he has no regrets about his actions. Let's listen.
I did the best that I could with the information I was getting, And if you've never been in a situation like that, you can sit here and tell me all you want about what I would have done or what you would have done. Until you're in that mix, you can't tell me anything different,
Gonzales said he was grateful to the jury for the verdict, but said he understands that the families were frustrated with the outcome.
It's hard if I tell them anything, I know it's not going to make them feel any better. But this is a struggle for me, for my family, to get up and leave. It's hard.
You're praying for them still.
And I'm still praying for them, every day when I go to work. I pray for them. I pray for them and their families, and not just them, but the community,
Former Uvalde Schools Police Chief Peter Arredondo was charged with 10 counts of child endangerment for his response to the shooting, but his case has been delayed by a pending civil lawsuit. What's happening here? First, I say this, as hard as this was for the families to go through, you can imagine the nightmare that has become their lives. To have this kind of loss, you're never going to repair yourself from. You're never going to heal, is the term that we like to use. This will forever be something that they deal with every morning that they wake up and every time they try to put one foot in front of the other. And I imagine that many of them looked at this as maybe some step towards that quote unquote healing. And so as much as this verdict does not reflect what I think they would have wanted for justice, what they expected to mean for justice, and I understand that and my heart goes out to them, I think this was the right verdict. Negligence is what we're talking about here. Somebody failing to do something. Whenever you have someone who fails to do something, failure to act, failure to protect others, you're talking about a concept of negligence, and negligence is just better suited for a civil context, not for the criminal world. In the criminal world, we're concentrated on more the actions that people take, their mens rea, their intent, and their actus reus, the actions that they took. And it's hard when you start to take those same rules and those same concepts and take those round pegs, fit them into the square holes of the concepts that we usually see in a civil arena. And that is the idea of negligence. Not to say that it never happens, but to say that it's difficult for jurors to try to appreciate it in a criminal context. And bravo to the jury here. This was not easy for them. The prosecution got one thing very right, and that was in opening statements. He said that this trial would change them forever. And I think it absolutely has. What they've had to deal with. It was highly emotional. It was a case where they saw graphic photos, heard horrific testimony. There were even outbursts in court from family members. That must have been very difficult for them to sit through as jurors. People just trying to do their best, do their civil duty. And knowing how the nation is watching, knowing how that community is still trying to heal, for them to come back with this verdict, I'm sure was not easy. If you think about it, the path of much less resistance probably would have been to come back with a guilty verdict in this case, because they have to walk amongst these people as neighbors. But they didn't do that. They followed the law, and I applaud them for that. But now what? What does that mean? Well, we've got this other criminal case going on. Perhaps jurors will see it differently when it comes down to a supervisor. His actions may have been different. His failure to act may have been different. Even his actions, the things that he did do may have been different. And maybe there is some criminal liability there. But certainly there's lawsuits that we're going to see down the road. And I realize that those don't carry the same kind of emotional impact that might come from a criminal trial and seeing someone go to jail. But I guess my question to you is, where do we go with this in the future with these types of cases? Unfortunately, I do not feel this is the last, where we may be second guessing the actions of law enforcement in incredibly difficult situations, fast moving, fog of war, fluid situations where they're just trying to do their best. These types of things have a place in the criminal context? And I will propose to you, there is one more reason why we are looking at this case today and why we are seeing these officers put on trial. And that is because the shooter is no longer alive. There is a person who is directly responsible for this incredible loss of life, 19 children, 2 teachers. There is someone that we very rightly should direct our anger at, and justice should direct its consequences towards, but that person's no longer amongst us. And I think that might be the problem. I wonder, and my question to you is, what do you think? Would we have felt as passionate about this case if the shooter were still around to be prosecuted criminally? Please let us know in the comments. Rock and Roll 888 or 888 says, I'm really glad Adrian was acquitted. I feel so for everyone there. I completely agree with you. Scotch's mom says, and Gonzales has to live with what he saw that day. Not excusing the officers, but the blame, I believe, goes to Pete Arredondo. Well, we will see. And Heather Cooper Smith, thank you so much for the super sticker. We appreciate you, and thank you for your support. Week 2 of the Brendan Banfield trial is wrapping up as the defense continues questioning the credibility of the investigation and the detectives involved. Banfield's attorney spent Thursday asking detectives and supervisors whether there was pressure to reach certain conclusions on a social media fetish account the prosecutors said Banfield and the family's au pair, Juliana Perez Magalhães, created. Prosecutors say the account was used to lure Joseph Ryan to the house by catfishing him into believing they were Banfield's wife, Christine. Both were found dead in Banfield's house in 2023. Banfield is charged with aggravated murder in the killings of his wife and Ryan. Prosecutors allege he orchestrated the murders to conceal a relationship with Magalhães. Prosecutors have relied heavily on testimony from Magalhães, who admitted her role in the killings under a plea agreement. She testified that she and Banfield were in a sexual relationship, that they plotted to kill Christine, and that Banfield controlled the planning, created an online profile using his wife's credentials, and ultimately stabbed Christine after shooting Ryan. The defense early on had argued that Magalhães is not genuine with her statements and questioned her memory on some topics and her intentions on taking a plea deal. Magalhães also admitted to considering a contract from Netflix for the rights to her story. Before the court dismissed on Thursday, the defense called up Sally Fayez with the Fairfax County Police Department's Victim Services Division. Fayez told the court that she suggested getting a hotel room for Banfield, Magalhães, and Banfield's daughter, Valerie. During cross-examination, Fayez told the court an intel officer heard Valerie ask Magalhães, "Can I call you mommy now?" Then Valerie asked if the two would get married, to which Magalhães said, "I wish." The trial is ongoing. Be sure to watch live gavel-to-gavel coverage on our sister channel, Courtroom Confidential Live Trials. All right, what's happening here? Well, obviously the big story is that we're all expecting Banfield to testify, and that is that he intends to take the stand. And I understand that that trial is still ongoing, and we are still streaming it on our sister channel, Courtroom Confidential Live Trials. So if that happens, and when it does, you can watch it there. My question, though, is this a smart call? We've all heard this. Anytime you got a defense attorney and you're going to ask them the question about whether or not a defendant should testify, they all say the exact same thing, and that is no, no, and no. Because that is usually the smart thing to do. Never put somebody on the stand. It is so difficult to testify. And I will say this, even when you're telling the truth, it is so difficult to get up there in an environment that you've never been before, in front of a bunch of strangers, in a highly tense and stressful situation, and have a conversation with someone that's just not normal. The question and answer between attorney and witness is just not a normal thing that we're used to seeing. So even in the best of circumstances, even when that person's entirely telling the truth, it's difficult. But why is it not a smart call here? And why might it be a smart call here? Let's discuss that. First, he's got a completely ridiculous and complicated story. This is for why I believe taking the stand would be a bad idea. That is going to be very difficult for him to tread those waters, keep all of those facts and lies straight. That's a lot to keep in your head, and it's very difficult to do on the fly while you're being cross-examined, especially by a skilled prosecutor who may be hopping around. That's what I would do. Certainly not take it in a linear path. I would hop all over the place, catch him off guard. The truth is much easier to remember than lies. And he's right not now the focus. Well, how do I put this? Right now, the focus is on Magalese. What do I mean by that? Right now, jurors only have her. This case, honestly, is going to come down to a credibility call. They're going to have to decide who do they believe. And right now, it's a binary question between do they believe or do they not believe Magalese? Well, that might be a better position for the defense in this case. If they don't believe her, then perhaps the rest of the prosecution case falls like a house of cards. Even though there is more evidence to support this, that is their star witness. And I think jurors are going to view this very much as a binary decision, unless he takes the stand and then everything changes. Why should he take the stand? Oh, well, I think if you've been watching this closely, you realize that he's at one of those points where he's got nothing left to lose. And if it is going to come down to believing her or not, maybe adding him to the stand, they'll have the choice of then believing him. And if he comes across as more credible than her, he could perhaps score some points with some of the jurors, and that's all that he needs. And he is the only person to really supply an innocent explanation for some of these huge questions in this case. Why was that account created to begin with, that profile? He's the only one to provide some sort of innocent explanation for that. The defense can't get it in any other way. But testifying is so much more than just telling a story. Jurors are looking at your demeanor. How do you carry yourself? Your believability, your likability, your relatability. All of these things matter, sometimes more than even the words coming out of your own mouth. And what on earth is he going to say to explain all of this? And do all of that on direct and maintain that same credibility, believability, and likability on cross-examination. It's going to be difficult. But my question then is, doesn't it seem like we see this happening much more often in these cases? Is it modern society is just kind of expecting people to testify? If you want us to walk you, then you better come to us as jurors face to face and ask for that. Or is it just that we're watching more trials now in the true crime space where it seems like people are inclined to take the stand? I don't know. That's my question to you. What do you think? Is the idea that it seems like more people, more defendants are testifying just anecdotal evidence, or is it actually statistical evidence? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments. Gossip Rumor, good to see you, says the defense is unhinged. Great way of describing it. John Moore says, I don't think he will testify. We shall see. I thought that's where we were headed on this thing. And Jimmy McNutty, good to see you, my friend, says, Charlie Adelson thinks Brendan Banfield should take the stand. Yeah. He says, join the club, jump right in. The water's fine. Erica Kirk, the widow of slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk, has filed for a speedy trial in the case against Tyler Robinson, who is accused of assassinating her husband last September. Charlie Kirk was shot and killed while speaking at a Turning Point USA event at the campus of Utah Valley University. After a manhunt, Robinson, age 22, turned himself into police and was charged with aggravated murder, amongst other felonies. Erica Kirk filed the request last Friday, accusing the defense of delaying the proceedings. While the Sixth Amendment guarantees a defendant the right to a speedy trial, Utah law also gives crime victims the quote, right to a speedy disposition of the charges free from unwarranted delay caused by or at the behest of the defendant. Quote, the defendant in this case is entitled to a fair trial, but he must be given one, but he is not entitled to cause undue delay to the criminal justice process, Erica Kirk's attorney wrote in the filing. At the same time, Robinson's attorneys are seeking to remove the Utah County Prosecutor's Office from the case. The defense argues there is a conflict of interest because the daughter of a deputy county attorney attended the rally where the shooting occurred. The county attorney has dismissed the claim as a stalling tactic. Robinson will return to court on February 3rd. What's happening here? Bravo. Bravo to Erica Kirk. This trial is starting to become bogged down, and this judge needs to take control and do something about it, but it doesn't look like he's going to do it on his own. And it doesn't look like the prosecution is getting much love coming their way from this judge either. Their requests seem to be not entirely ignored, but certainly he's deferring towards the defense and their requests and their arguments and their continued delay and obstruction in this case. And I believe that's what it's becoming at this point. So bravo to Erica Kirk and her attorneys for finding a clever way to light a fire in this case. Think about why we are here in this last hearing in the first place. I know that's what not entirely the topic that we're talking about today, but I want to visit it as a great example of why I think this case has got problems or is starting to have problems. They are bringing a conflict of interest claim. They're saying the entire state's attorney's office should be dismissed from the case because one supervising attorney, not the ones in court, by the way, but one supervising attorney who happens to be in that office happened to have a child, a daughter, who happened to be in attendance on the day that the shooting took place and didn't even witness it. And not that per se creates a conflict, because you have to go beyond that, because there were thousands of people who happened to witness this event. You have to say that because that connection exists, it has so infected the state's attorney's office with this overwhelming emotional response to this case that they cannot handle it fairly. That to me is ridiculous on its face, and that's how the judge should have handled it. But the judge is entertaining all of this. And at first I thought this was a contemplative judge who's just making sure he's doing things right. And now I'm beginning to wonder if he's in over his head. The interesting thing about this law that Erica Kirk is using is a point that we should not gloss over as well. Utah has done something very interesting here. Many states talk about victims' rights. Here in California, we have a Victims' Bill of Rights, they call it, which is law and allows for many things for victims to have a voice in many concerns. It, in fact, says that in anything affecting the case, the victim should be informed. And at sentencing, the victims should have a opportunity to voice their opinions and speak in court. Utah went farther than that, though, and codified it. It's a statute. It's a law. It's a shall do situation. The judge shall do certain things. And it gives the victims equal rights to what defendants are given, which, by the way, are backed up by the Sixth Amendment and the Constitution. So Utah has said just as much as the defendant can say, I want a speedy trial, I don't want the government to delay, so can the victim say, I want the same thing. Good for Utah for having this law. Now, that all being said, what is the consequence if this law is not followed? In states like California, where I practice, there are speedy trial rights which have actual days attached to them. You have 48 hours to arraign someone. You have 10 days to bring them to prelim. You have 60 days to bring them to trial. If you miss those deadlines and there's not some waiver of time or some other extraordinary reason, you know what the consequence is? If the prosecution meets those deadlines, the case gets dismissed. That is a huge consequence. What is the consequence, though, if the victims in Utah are not given a speedy trial? Are their dates set? If it does go beyond that, and it is viewed as though they're not getting a speedy trial, are we going to grant a conviction? We simply can't do that. The consequences simply can't be the same. So I wonder, as strong as this law is, and as much as I appreciate it being on the books, is it really just a toothless threat? But what do you think? Is this case, am I too worked up, or is this case already starting to go off the rails? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Please let us know in the comments. Afton says victims' rights laws are few and far between, and I agree, and that's not the way it should be. Cody in Tennessee, thank you so much for the super chat, says, does motions get heard in order? If so, the motion to dismiss the attorneys come first. Well, in this case, it's interesting because it's like the judge can't even consider the big motion till he gets to this other little motion about whether or not they're even allowed to argue it. It's a complete mess, Cody. Thank you for asking. And Dr. Von de K says, just gifted a membership. So appreciate you so much, Dr. Von de K, for that. Before we dive into the other cases making headlines this week, I have one small favor to ask, and that is, if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel now. It's completely free, and it's a great way to support the channel. We want to keep bringing you the highest quality content that we can, and the best way that we can do that is through your support. The Illinois surgeon accused of gunning down his ex-wife and her husband entered a not guilty plea at his first appearance in an Ohio courtroom on Friday. Michael McKee is charged with premeditated aggravated murder for allegedly shooting and killing his ex-wife, Monique Tepe, and her husband, dentist Spencer Tepe, at their Columbus home on December 30th. McKee, who was taken into custody in Illinois, was extradited to Ohio on Tuesday. McKee appeared via video at Friday's brief hearing and did not speak. His newly acquired attorney, Diane Menashe, entered not guilty pleas to all counts and waived bond. McKee and Monique Tepe were married in 2015 and divorced in 2017. They did not have any children together. Spencer and Monique Tepe married in December 2020, according to their obituary. The Tepes are survived by their two young children who were found safe inside their home after the December 30th killings. Buckle up, folks. With this new hire of this attorney, from what I'm hearing, I think we're in for a real fight in this one. So stay tuned. The Arkansas Supreme Court has stayed the trial of a father charged with killing his daughter's alleged abuser after it ruled that the judge would be removed from the case. The ruling comes a day after Judge Barbara Elmore announced she would not recuse herself from the case after Aaron Spencer's attorneys filed motions for her removal, arguing she is unfit to oversee the case. The court's ruling did not elaborate on the judge's removal. The court also vacated an order that limited courtroom occupancy and no recordings. There is currently no judge assigned to the case, which means trial will not start this week. One key argument from the defense centered on Elmore's effort to keep the case out of public view. Defense attorneys pointed to her attempt last year to impose a gag order that the Arkansas Supreme Court rejected, calling it far too broad and restrictive of First Amendment protected speech. They also cited Elmore's January 13th order limiting trial attendance to 55 people, including parties, media, and the public. Spencer was arrested in 2024 and charged with second-degree murder in the shooting death of 67-year-old Michael Fossler. On October 8th of 2024, deputies responded to a home after reports that Spencer's then 14-year-old daughter was missing. According to reports, Spencer found her inside a vehicle with Fossler. After a confrontation, Fossler was allegedly shot by Spencer and later pronounced dead at the scene. Spencer was released on bail and pled not guilty. He's currently campaigning to become the next Lenape County Sheriff. Wow. I've got to tell you, I believe there is way more to this story, and I hope that we find that out. But in the meantime, good for Arkansas for doing something about it and getting this judge off the case if she was not the right judge to sit on this case, and for opening this case up, hopefully, to more scrutiny from the public. Before we get into the rest of the week's cases, here's something worth thinking about as the new year gets underway. A lot of people reset their passwords, clean out their inboxes, and assume that means they're starting the year fresh. But the truth is, if your information was already exposed last year, the risk doesn't reset on January 1st. Data brokers and hackers are still out there, and your personal information may already be circulating without you even knowing it. That's why starting the year protected matters. That's why I use this episode's sponsor, Aura. Aura provides full digital security, so you're covered even when breaches and scams happen. You get dark web alerts, bank fraud monitoring, a VPN, antivirus, and password manager, and up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all in one app. Try Aura free for 14 days at aura.com/courtroomconfidential. You'll see exactly where your info's being sold and get it removed. It's free to try, it protects you, and it helps support the show. A permanent gag order will remain in place in the case against the California woman charged with murdering her 9-year-old daughter. 40-year-old Ashlee Buzzard is charged with shooting her daughter, Melody, in the head multiple times and leaving her body in a rural area of Wayne County, Utah during a 3-day road trip last October. Santa Barbara County Superior Court Judge Stephen Dunkel approved the order Wednesday after county counsel representing the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office and prosecutors said they took no position. The defense requested the gag order to prevent authorities from releasing additional details about the investigation. The Sheriff's Office said Buzzard was uncooperative during the missing person investigation launched October 14th of 2025 after school administrators reported Melody's prolonged absence. Buzzard was arrested December 23rd after the child's remains were found. Judge Dunkel also granted the defense access to sealed search warrants and affidavits, including any future warrants filed under seal. At the defense's request, Buzzard waived time for another month, pushing her preliminary hearing past April. Public defender Erica Sutherland said she is missing a significant amount of discovery, describing it as essentially all forensic evidence. She requested a date in 3 weeks to monitor the progress of discovery, stating the delay was solely related to the outstanding evidence. Buzzard remains held without bail and is scheduled to return to court on February 11th. I'm getting sick of these gag orders. I'm really not appreciating the manipulation of the constitutional right for the press and media and all of us to see what's going on here. And I think that these gag orders are starting to be applied way beyond what they were originally intended for. The husband of a Massachusetts woman charged with killing their 3 young children has filed a medical malpractice and wrongful death lawsuit, alleging that doctors over-medicated his wife and failed to properly treat her. Cora, age 5, Dawson, age 3, and 8-month-old Callan were killed on January 24th of 2023 in the Lindsay and Patrick Clancy's Duxbury home. Prosecutors allege Lindsay Clancy strangled the children, then cut her wrists and neck and jumped from a second-story window. She's charged with 3 counts of murder and strangulation or suffocation. Patrick Clancy's civil lawsuit claims that psychiatrist Dr. Jennifer Tufts and registered nurse Rebecca Gelada as defendants, along with their employers. The complaint alleges their treatment, quote, exacerbated her struggles, citing a bevy of diverse and powerful medications they misprescribed. According to the filing, Clancy began experiencing worsening anxiety in fall of 2022 as her maternity leave from her job as a labor and delivery nurse ended. After being prescribed Zoloft by Dr. Tufts in mid-October, she reported her anxiety immediately worsened. By mid-November, Clancy was sleeping just 3 hours a night. Gelada later prescribed Seroquel, which Clancy reported had a negative impact, followed by Valium. On December 5th, Clancy disclosed intrusive thoughts about wanting to die and contacted crisis support. She later checked into a day hospital program and was hospitalized at McLean Hospital for suicidal thoughts from January 1st to January 5th. After the deaths, Clancy said she had been, quote, hearing a compelling and unrecognizable singular male voice that told her, this is your last chance. and that she had to take them with her, according to the complaint. The voice also, quote, indicated to her that she should die, that this is her last chance, and that her children would suffer if she was gone. Lindsay Clancy's criminal trial is scheduled for July. A hearing in the criminal case is set for Tuesday, January 27th. No hearings have been scheduled in the civil case. That is the defense case. You've just heard it laid out. It's in the form of this civil lawsuit. That is exactly the same arguments we're going to hear in the defense case when this criminal case goes to trial. Before we get to what's coming up next week, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a part of this growing community. But I wanted to give a special shout out to Jennifer Moore for your comment on Spotify, and to our CC crew members, 3 Doxies, 1 Prince, and ART7F for your comments on YouTube. We can't thank you enough for your continued support. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave us a comment on YouTube. We appreciate your help in spreading the word about Courtroom Confidential. On the docket for next week, Samuel Hostetler, the Amish teen from Ohio facing charges in the death of Rosanna Kissinger, will return to court Monday, January 26th for a pretrial hearing. Jury selection in the case of Dale Warner, the Michigan man accused of killing his wife, Dee Warner, and hiding her body in a gas tank, will begin on Tuesday, January 27th. Opening statements are set to begin on February 10th. Sarah Grace Patrick, the Georgia teen accused of murdering her mother and stepfather, Kristen and James Brock, will be in court on Tuesday, January 27th for a bond hearing. Larry Millete, the California man accused of killing his wife, Maya, who remains missing more than 4 years after vanishing from her home, will be in court Wednesday, January 28th for a motions hearing. Kelly Bryant, the Michigan woman accused of abandoning her 3 children to live alone in squalor for years, returns to court for a pretrial conference on Wednesday, January 28th. Jennifer Gledhill, the Utah woman accused of murdering her missing husband, Matthew Johnson, has a hearing on Thursday, January 29th. Gregory Moore, a former divorce attorney accused of killing his client, Eliza Sherman, in 2013, has a pretrial hearing on Friday, January 30th. Courtney and Bradley Bartholomew, the Michigan couple charged in the homicide of pregnant woman Rebecca Park, will appear in court for hearings to show cause on Friday, January 30th. Luigi Mangione, the man charged in the 2024 death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, will be in court for a pretrial conference on Friday, January 30th for his federal charges. And finally, please join us for our special question and answer series Sunday Fun Day. All are invited to leave us a voice message with a true crime question at thecourtroomconfidential.com, which I will answer live during Sunday's show at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. You can find the live stream on YouTube, X, and Facebook. All right, if you're watching on YouTube, don't go anywhere. We have some announcements for you. And if you are joining us on any podcast platform, that is it for us this week, folks. I'm your host, Josh Ritter. You can find us on social media at CR Confidential on X, at The Courtroom Confidential on Instagram, or at thecourtroomconfidential.com. Thank you again for joining me. Have a great weekend, and I will see you again next week for another episode of Courtroom Confidential. All right, everybody. I think that the Banfield trial has concluded for today and this week. I hope I can get confirmation from our team, our support team, all the dozens of people working behind the scenes to help us put this all together. They're nodding at me. So we will continue to stream that one. It doesn't sound like he testified today, which is a little disappointing. I still do think that he probably will testify. And now that I've put that into the universe, I'm probably going to be wrong. Therapist, thank you so much. Says, great show, Josh. Way to go, Kaylin. Thank you for that. And absolutely thank you to Kaylin and Tiffany for keeping us, for everything that she's doing behind the scenes. Best Nancy says it's the most boring trial of all time. It's pretty incredible, as fascinating a story as it is, that it kind of loses all of that Hollywood flair when it gets to the actual trial. I do know, too, I was told ahead of time by one of our dozens of support staff and researchers that there may have been some developments in the David case with Celeste Rivas. And I think maybe an arrest was made in that, just a little too late in the day for us to include in this roundup, but we will be talking more about it, I'm sure, tomorrow and on Monday. All right, let me give you guys some announcements. First of all, I want to tell you about a website called The Courtroom Confidential, where you're going to find the big 3 M's: messages, membership, and merch. Messages. You heard about it already. If you want to leave us a message for not tomorrow, for Sunday, you still have time till the end of day today, till midnight West Coast this evening. We will be taking calls and answering them on Sunday. Membership. Thank you so much for everybody who gifted a membership. Thank you so much for everybody who joined up today. If you want to become a member, like Lisa Loves Dogs just became a member, thank you so much and welcome aboard. Then go to thecourtroomconfidential.com and click on Become a Member. And I'll tell you what, you're going to want to do it today especially, because right after this stream, don't go anywhere. We are going through the magic of YouTube to teleport you over to our monthly members only live. If you are a member in the classified or above, and we've got a great show, we're going to share some, we're doing the 2016 challenge and sharing some photos. Is that for real? Kaylin's 100% juiced. Wow. We should give out an award. Well, she's juiced because we're going to do the 2016 challenge in our members only live. And we've got some photos from our little one's birthday. Kaylin's so happy about this. So a lot of fun stuff. So if today is the day that you were contemplating joining up, Best Nancy just gifted a membership. We appreciate that. Do it today, because you don't want to miss this members only live that we're going to have right after this. And then finally, merch. What is this one? I think that the company probably calls it watermelon. Oh, Alicia K. Mayo says, waiving watermelon right to speedy trial. See, that's where the clever part came in. Therapist, says the red hot legal papers. I like that a lot. That's good. And Lisa Loves Dog says, I have watched the shirt color endings to stream, so this is my offering for today. Sentenced to salmon. If that is your first one out of the gate, Lisa Loves Dogs, that's a real winner. I love that. Sentenced to salmon. All right. What did you miss? Well, this week, first of all, Sherry Ben, thank you so much for becoming a member. You're not going to regret it. What did you miss? On Wednesday, we had a real nice chat with my new buddy, Paul Morrow. On our Wednesday night live, we talked about Ellen Greenberg. We talked about Tyler Robinson. We talked about the Uvalde verdict. The Uvalde verdict actually happened in the middle of the show, so we watched it live and responded to it. It's well worth watching. And I say this about all of our guests, that they're fantastic, and I really love their thoughts. Paul is really up there. He is so smart, and he's got this like really dry sense of humor. And he's just a brilliant dude, and I love chatting with him, and he's become a very good friend over the last few weeks. So I encourage you all to go check that out. Speaking of Paul, I do a show with him on Fox Nation called The Weekly Rap Sheet. That dropped yesterday as well. We usually do it on Fridays, but this week we did it on Thursdays. So that's live up on Fox Nation. It's a show I host along with Donna Rotuno, Paul Morrow. And we talked about Robinson and Greenberg, Ellen Greenberg. We had a conversation about her and Uvalde. So please check it out. It's on Fox Nation now. Then stay tuned. Like I said, don't go anywhere. Right after this, we are going to transport you over to the members only live stream. So if you're a member, stick around. If you're not a member, join up. And if you're not a member and you don't want to join up, stick around anyway, so we can transport you over there. And then you can say, wait a minute, why can't I watch it? Well, you need to join our membership program. That's right after this. It's going to be fun. Then all next week, the continuing trial of Brandon Banfield. When I say all next week, I'm not dooming it to last all through next week. I'm just saying it's going to continue to next week. So day 8 will be on Monday, right? We're not skipping any days. Oh, I got a big, I don't know from our research department. So whenever it's back in trial, we will be covering it live on our sister channel, Courtroom Confidential Live Trials. And if you haven't already, subscribe over there. so that you don't miss anything. Cody in Tennessee said, you know what? Enough with all of this. I'm just going to gift some memberships to everybody so they can join us today. It should be really fun. And then on Sunday, we will be back here for Sunday Fun Day. We've got a bunch of great questions already, and we'll take any more that you have. We're going to be talking about Nick Reiner and Michael McKee and Ashlee Buzzard and all of the stuff that's in the news and answering your wonderful questions. They're always really brilliant questions, and they always continue to impress me. And we just decided to gift some memberships to everybody. So we want a big showing for this members only live. And then on Monday, we're back here for our normal Monday night true crime docket. Guest to be determined, but that will be live at 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern. And then if I haven't taken care of your weekend and week, True Crime in a Minute says Banfield date to resume will be determined based on weather. Judge said to stay tuned. Love this judge. How do they handle that with the jurors? They're just going to call him, I guess. Yeah, this weather. I hope you guys are staying safe. Would love to know what the temperature is at wherever you're at. I know that there's a way to do that on the chat, I think, right? But I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you're staying warm. Have a cup of cocoa in your Courtroom Confidential mug, and stay tuned for the members only live coming up after this. And Roy just helped one more person out with all of that. So we've got your weekend covered. We got your afternoon covered, your weekend covered, your Monday covered. We even have your May covered, because from May 29th through 31st, you're busy. Put it on the calendar. You're coming to CrimeCon. It's in Vegas. What more excuse do you need? We're going to be there. We've been invited. We're going to have a booth. We're going to be doing a bunch of fun stuff. We'd love to meet all of you. Real Tractor Mower says it's 14 but feels like 0. Afton says it's 9 but feels like minus 11. Good grief. And then K9 Catherine just throws in 76 in Maui just to make everybody's eyes roll. Farmaco 0811 just became a member. Thank you so much for that. We're going to have a great time chatting after this. Wait a second here. Hold on. You guys are just making up numbers now. -11 in North Dakota feels like -23. -16 wind chill is -38, says Renee Evans. Good grief. I hope you guys, that is no longer, Campbell's soup and cocoa. That is like survival. So I hope you guys are safe. I really do. Anyhow, it'll warm up by May 29th through 31st at CrimeCon. So please join us. And if you needed any more further reason, well, we asked CrimeCon, said, you got to give our members something because we're going to really push hard to have a bunch of people there. And they said, we'll give you a discount code. So 10% off. If you enter that at checkout, it will give you 10% off. Enter in the word courtroom, all in caps, all one word. We would love to see as many. I would just love to have a huge crowd of Courtroom Confidential people there. It would be so much fun. We had such a great time in Denver. I think Vegas is going to be even better. And we're going to bring one of the little ones. And can I say that Tiff, your pop and stepmom are going to be there too? They want to check it out. So it should be a fun time. And thank you, Jenny G, for gifting the Courtroom Confidential membership. All right. We got to hop over there. We got 10 minutes. Should we just what is the plan, ladies? Are we just going to do this right now? Your parents are coming too, Kaylin says. Look at this. This is going to be fun. Oh, I'm very excited now. Oh my goodness. Amy Joe, Faithful Wanderer, says -17, -43 wind chill in Wisconsin. I don't even know what that means. -43 wind chill. Good grief. I hope you guys are just cranking up the furnace, and hopefully you got a fireplace, and stay warm, everybody, and stay safe. Should we, is the plan, ladies, to just join the new live in 10 minutes and keep it at the same time so we don't mess with everybody? I say that's my vote. Okay. I've been given permission by my co-bosses that we're going to say goodbye to you, all of you here. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Have a wonderful Saturday. We'll see you on Sunday. And everybody who's a member or not, stick around. We're going to transport you over there, and we'll be over there in just about 10 minutes time. Jenny G, thank you so much for gifting the membership. Special shout out and thanks to Afton, Shy Gal, Kathy, and Therapist, for being our mods. You're all fantastic. They'll be in the members only live. Kaylin will be there as well. Kaylin, thank you so much for making everything run so smoothly. And Tiffany, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.